The massive obsidian doors of the Galactic Council's grand chamber slid open with a reverberating hiss. Ambassador Marcus Reed walked forward, shoulders squared despite being dwarfed by the towering alien representatives surrounding him. The chamber rose hundreds of meters above, with 7,000 seats arranged in concentric circles, each filled with a different species from across the Milky Way. Illuminated only by bioluminescent orbs floating in the void black ceiling, the chamber felt like the inside of a star-filled galaxy. Humanity stands accused of technological heresy, boomed High Counselor Vexalia, her translucent appendages rippling with disapproval. You have developed quantum entanglement weaponry despite explicit prohibition. Marcus approached the central platform, his footsteps echoing. We developed defensive capabilities only after the Proxima Centauri colony was attacked by stealth vessels bearing no identification. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as the holographic evidence appeared, showing human ships destroying what appeared to be an unmarked Dralzi vessel. The vessel you destroyed belonged to a scientific expedition, countered Counselor Thrix, his exoskeleton clicking in agitation. Marcus tapped his wrist device, and a new hologram appeared, our communication logs proving the vessel had military signatures. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. He had caught them in a lie. More troubling, continued Marcus, is discovering that certain council members have been systematically suppressing human technological advancement while secretly harvesting our scientific breakthroughs. Chaos erupted in the chamber. High Counselor Vexalia struck her staff against the floor, creating a sonic wave that silenced the room. You overstep, human, she hissed. This council has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Your species brings nothing but disorder. Marcus stood unflinching, then put it to a vote. The voting commenced, our holographic symbols appearing above each representative. As the tally completed, Marcus's face remained impassive despite the devastating result. By decree of the Galactic Council, announced Vexalia with cold satisfaction, humanity is hereby banished from all council worlds, stations, and trade routes. You have one standard rotation to evacuate your people. Any human found in council space after this time will be considered hostile. Marcus looked up at the thousands of alien faces, some triumphant, others regretful, a few openly weeping. You mistake our adaptability for disorder, he said quietly, his voice somehow carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. You mistake our creativity for recklessness. And most critically he looked directly at Vexalia. Oh, you mistake our departure for defeat. The journey back to Earth was the longest 17 hours of Marcus's life. As his diplomatic vessel exited the final jump point near Luna Base, the blue-green jewel of humanity's homeworld filled the view screen. How could he tell 7 billion people they had just over 20 hours to evacuate their entire civilization? Global Emergency Protocol Delta was activated the moment Marcus's transmission reached Earth's Defense Command. Within minutes, every communication device on the planet simultaneously broadcast the news. Operation Diaspora. A contingency plan that had seemed like paranoid overkill when first proposed 5 years earlier was now humanity's only hope. Admiral Ilara Frost stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun as she watched the evacuation unfold on multiple screens. Status report, she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. Civilian transports at 62% capacity. Military escort vessels deployed. Colony ships reporting readiness at 89%, replied her executive officer. The conversion of cargo vessels is proceeding, but we're still short on life support systems. Ilara nodded grimly. And the Novan situation? A new hologram appeared showing alien vessels approaching Earth space, sleek, organic-looking ships that seemed to flow through space rather than push against it. The Novan Alliance representatives are requesting sanctuary. They claim the Council is already moving against species who opposed our banishment. This complicated matters. The Novansas, a collective of 3 non-humanoid species who had consistently advocated for Earth in Council matters, were now facing their own persecution. Taking them along would strain already limited resources, but leaving them to face Council retribution was unthinkable. Bring them in, Ilara ordered. Integrate their ships into Evacuation Group 7. As the mammoth evacuation effort continued, Marcus met with Earth's unified government in their underground emergency chamber. The room was tense, filled with the planet's most powerful leaders now facing an existential crisis. "We always knew this was possible," said President Daniels, her face drawn with exhaustion. "That's why we built the deep space colonization ships in secret." "What about the Mars and Europa colonies?" asked the Chinese premier. "Already evacuating," replied the Secretary of Defense. "But there's a bigger issue. Our long-range scans show Council enforcer fleets mobilizing at the edge of our system." "They're not waiting for their own deadline." Marcus wasn't surprised. "They fear us more than they let on." The banishment was just the public face of what was always going to be an extermination. President Daniels stood, her decision made. "Then we execute Phase 2 of Diaspora. Director Fujimoto, activate the Pathfinder Protocol." In a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Rei Fujimoto gave the command that would change humanity's future forever. 6 experimental vessels were constructed using reverse-engineered technology from a crashed Council ship while powered up their engines. These ships carried Earth's greatest scientists, its genetic heritage bank, and the most complete database of human knowledge ever assembled. "Pathfinders will lead the way," she said, watching as the ships rose from the ocean and accelerated toward the stars, taking a different route than the main evacuation fleet. Across Earth, families gathered their most precious possessions, said goodbye to homes they'd never see again, and boarded the waiting ships. There were tears and protests, but surprisingly little panic. Humanity had faced extinction before AWOL, from nuclear threats to asteroid near misses to climate disasters. Something in the species' collective psyche had always prepared them for this day. In orbit, the greatest fleet ever assembled by humans grew hour by hour. Commercial starliners converted to evacuation ships, military vessels, colony ships designed for terraforming distant worlds, and even hastily retrofitted cargo haulers. Over 50,000 vessels of every size and description, prepared to carry the hope of humanity into the unknown. On the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Earth's newest and largest battleship, Admiral Frost coordinated the exodus. The ship would serve as the command center for the entire migration. "Latest population report," said her communications officer. "Give me the numbers," Ilara replied, bracing herself. "We've evacuated 5.9 billion. Approximately 800 million remain, with capacity for another 650 million. The unspoken truth hung in the air. Not everyone would make it out. Despite every ship, despite working around the clock, despite converting every possible vessel to carry human cargo, Earth was simply too populous to evacuate completely in the time allowed. "The Council ships have crossed Saturn's orbit," reported the tactical officer. "They're moving faster than expected." Ilara made the hardest decision of her career. "Send the signal. Begin Phase 3 departure. All ships with 90% capacity or higher are to break orbit immediately." Across Earth's orbit, engines flared to life as the first wave of ships began to pull away, forming into convoy formations. On the planet below, those who had accepted they wouldn't make it out watched the lights of departing ships streak across the night sky. Marcus Reed stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, watching his homeworld recede. "We need to go." "Ambassador?" said a junior officer. "Not yet," Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the blue planet. "There's one more ship." As if on cue, a massive vessel rose from the Atlantic Ocean, the UES Hope, Earth's largest colony ship, disguised for years as an offshore research platform. It carried the final evacuees, plus something the Council would never expect: the complete infrastructure to rebuild a technological society, atom fabricators and all. Just as the Hope reached orbit, the first Council warships appeared at the edge of the solar system. "All ships, execute jump sequence," ordered Admiral Frost. "Rendezvous at the Diaspora coordinates." One by one, the ships of humanity's Exodus fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives, disappearing in flashes of light. The Prometheus was among the last to depart, its powerful engines holding position to ensure the safety of the final evacuees. As the flagship prepared to jump, Marcus inserted a data crystal into the ship's computer. On the screen appeared a detailed star map of sectors the Council had deemed off-limits, regions unexplored by their fleets. "What is this?" asked Admiral Frost. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "During the Council session, I uploaded a virus into their central database. It copied their complete stellar cartography, including regions they've hidden from member species. There's a whole sector beyond the Perseus Void that they've kept secret, and that's where we're going to build something they've never imagined. The Prometheus engaged its drive, vanishing just as Council weapons locked onto its position. The last ship of humanity had escaped, carrying not just refugees but the seeds of an empire. The vast darkness of deep space surrounded the Exodus fleet, punctuated only by the running lights of 50,000 vessels carrying the remains of human civilization. On the bridge of the command ship Prometheus, Fleet Commander Jackson Torres stared at the holographic display showing the scattered formation of ships stretching over 15 million kilometers. 3 weeks had passed since Earth's evacuation, and the strain was beginning to show. "Status report," he demanded, rubbing his bloodshot eyes. Lieutenant Rivera tapped her console. "Civilian vessels are reporting increased water recycling failures. Medical supplies on Transport Group 7 are critically low. The Novan ships are requesting permission to redistribute their food supplies to compatible species." Jackson nodded grimly. "Grant permission to the Novans. Have engineering teams prioritize water systems. What's our position?" "We've traveled 42 light-years from Earth, sir. No sign of Council pursuit for the past week." That should have been reassuring, but Jackson knew better. The Council hadn't given a pause. They were too methodical, too patient. The absence of pursuit likely meant something worse. They were plotting a more efficient means of capture. The doors to the bridge slid open, and Ambassador Marcus Reed entered, accompanied by Admiral Ilara Frost. Both looked as exhausted as Jackson felt. "Commander," Ilara acknowledged, "we need to make a decision. We can't keep drifting like this." Marcus activated the central display, showing the star map he had stolen from the Council database. "I've been analyzing this data with our navigation team. There's a region beyond the Perseus armor here." He pointed to a cluster of stars surrounded by a strange void in the map. "The Council has deliberately mislabeled it as a radiation zone." "How can you be sure?" asked Jackson. "Because they've got hidden hyperspace lanes leading directly to it," Marcus replied. "And according to data fragments I've decrypted, they've been harvesting resources from the area for centuries while keeping it off all official charts." Ilara studied the map. "It's at least 4 months' journey at our current speed. Many ships won't make it that far without resupply. That's why we need to find a temporary haven," said Marcus. "There's an unaffiliated trading outpost at these coordinates. They deal with species outside Council jurisdiction. We might find supplies there." Jackson was about to respond when alarms blared across the bridge. "Emergency transmission from the outer perimeter," reported the communications officer. "Vessel UNSS Dauntless reports system failures across multiple ships in their group." Jackson frowned. "What kind of failures?" "Life support, navigation, power systems are all failing simultaneously on over 40 ships. This wasn't random." "Full scan of all vessels," Jackson ordered. "Look for any anomalies." The results came back within minutes, confirming his fears. Throughout the fleet, key systems were failing in patterns that couldn't be coincidental. "Sabotage," said Ilara, her voice hard as steel. "Get me a secure channel to all military vessels," Jackson commanded. "Security teams to begin immediate sweep of all ships. Priority on life support and navigation systems." Within hours, the first saboteurs were discovered, Central aliens who had appeared to be refugees, but carried cellular modifications that let them evade standard bioscans. Each had been strategically placed on critical vessels throughout the fleet. In the Prometheus's secure conference room, Diplomatic Officer Amara Okafor faced the representatives of the non-human refugee groups. "We've identified the infiltrators as Dralzi operatives," she explained, displaying the biological data. "The same species whose scientific vessel attacked our Proxima colony. Elder Thorn of the Novan Alliance, a being who resembled a tall, willowy plant with crystalline growths, rustled in distress. The Dralzi are Council enforcers. They've been genetically modified for infiltration and sabotage. We believe they were planted before the evacuation," said Amara. "But we need to be certain none of your people are compromised." The accusation hung in the air, threatening the fragile trust between humans and their alien allies. "We will submit to any examination," said Krell, the ambassador of the Laxi, whose silver-scaled form shifted color with his emotions. "We chose to join your exodus because we too have suffered from Council manipulation. We have no desire to return to their control." The other representatives agreed, though some more reluctantly than others. Trust had become as valuable a commodity as oxygen in the fleet. While security teams continued their sweep for saboteurs, the fleet changed course toward the trading outpost. 2 weeks later, they arrived at a massive structure that appeared to be a hollowed-out asteroid, surrounded by ships of all descriptions. "Welcome to Freehold," announced the gruff voice of the station's controller. "State your business." "We seek trade and resupply," replied Amara, who had been chosen as negotiator for this encounter. 50,000 ships? That's not resupply, that's an invasion. We're refugees. We have valuable technology and resources to trade. A long pause followed. "Refugees from where?" "Earth, human space," another pause. "The Council finally did it, huh? Docking permission granted for your command ships only. The rest stay in the outer approach." On Freehold, Amara and a small team discovered a lawless but functioning marketplace where species from across the galaxy conducted business away from Council oversight. Here they secured critical supplies in exchange for Earth technologies the Council had suppressed: efficient terraforming methods, advanced medical techniques, and sustainable energy systems. But information proved even more valuable than supplies. In a dimly lit chamber deep within the station, they met Xeris, an information broker whose six-eyed reptilian face showed no emotion as he spoke. "The Council is divided over your banishment," he revealed. "3 factions have emerged. The supremacists want you exterminated completely. The pragmatists want to capture your technology, then eliminate the threat. The minimalists just want you gone from their territory." "And which faction is winning?" asked Amara. "The supremacists control the military. They've dispatched hunter-killer groups to track you." Xeris paused, his vertical pupils narrowing. "There's something else. The Council is especially interested in recovering something called Project Lazarus. They seem quite desperate to find it." Back on the Prometheus, this information caused immediate concern. Project Lazarus was a highly classified Earth Initiative Ararta last resort weapon system, designed to target stars themselves. Only 5 people in the fleet even knew of its existence. "How could they know about Lazarus?" demanded Admiral Frost. "That project was black-level classified." "We have a deeper infiltration than we realized," said Jackson. "Someone with high-level access." The fleet departed Freehold with renewed supplies but heightened paranoia. Security protocols were tightened further as they continued toward the mysterious region beyond the Perseus Arm. To reach it, they would need to navigate a treacherous nebula that marked the boundary between Council-mapped space and the unknown. As they approached the nebula, the ship's sensors detected strange energy readings unlike anything in their databases. "Analysis?" asked Jackson, staring at the swirling clouds of purple and blue gas that stretched before them. "Unknown, sir," replied the science officer. "The energy signatures don't match any known natural phenomenon. They almost seem artificial." Before they could investigate further, the perimeter alert sounded again. "Council pursuit vessels detected," called out the tactical officer. 8 Drowsy hunter ships approaching at high speed. "Battle stations," ordered Admiral Frost. "Military. Vessels to defensive formation Delta. Civilian. Ships begin nebula entry sequence, the human military. Ships are outnumbered but determined. Move to protect the vulnerable." Civilian vessels as they began entering the nebula. The Drowsy ships closed rapidly, their sleek predatory forms designed for pursuit and capture. "They're targeting the Pathfinder vessels," reported Tactical. "They're trying to capture our science ships." "Not on my watch," growled Jackson. "Weapons free. Target their propulsion systems." The battle erupted in silent flashes against the backdrop of the nebula. Human vessels designed for defense rather than conquest performed better than the Drowsy anticipated. For every human ship disabled, 2 Council vessels were crippled. As the civilian fleet disappeared into the nebula's protective clouds, Admiral Frost ordered the final phase of their defensive plan. "Deploy the gravity mines. All remaining ships. Execute emergency jump into the nebula." The specially designed mines are another technology the Council had forbidden created localized gravity distortions that would disrupt pursuit for hours. Inside the nebula, navigation became nearly impossible. The energy readings disrupted standard sensors, forcing the fleet to stay in tight formation using short-range communication only. For 3 tense days, they pushed deeper into the purple haze, hoping the gamble would pay off. On the 4th day, They emerged from the nebula into a sight that left every human and alien on the bridge staring in awe. Before them stretched a vast star cluster, rich with planets showing signs of habitability. But what truly stunned them were the enormous structures orbiting several stars. Artificial rings the size of planetary orbits, clearly constructed by some advanced civilization. "What are they?" whispered Jackson. The observation dome atop New Earth's Capitol building offered a spectacular view of humanity's achievement. Engineer Director Kaito Nakamura stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the massive structure that encircled the star this colony now called home. The Dyson ring are still incomplete but already functional, gleamed in the distance, capturing energy on a scale humans had only theorized about 20 years ago. "Magnificent, isn't it?" came a voice behind him. "Hard to believe we've accomplished so much in 2 decades. Kaito turned to see Marcus Reed approaching. The former ambassador had aged well, though streaks of silver now ran through his dark hair. As first consul of the Perseus Compact of the government formed by the human refugees and their alien allies, Marcus carried the weight of their new civilization on his shoulders. "The ring will be complete within 5 years, said Kaito. "Already it generates enough power to supply every settlement in the system, with enough surplus to begin construction of the second ring in the Bella system." Marcus nodded appreciatively. "And the Quantum Fold project?" Kaito's expression brightened with excitement. "That's why I called you here. We're ready for the first full-scale test." They walked to a sleek transport vessel that whisked them to a massive facility on the far side of the planet. There, in a cavernous chamber reinforced with materials derived from the ancient precursor technology, stood a circular gateway 30 meters in diameter. Teams of human and alien scientists moved purposefully around it, making final adjustments. Director Nakamura called out a young woman with copper-colored skin. "Quantum alignment is at 99.8% stability. We're ready to proceed." "Thank you, Dr. Okafor," replied Kaito, nodding at Amara's daughter. Lima Okafor had been born during the Exodus and had grown up with an intuitive understanding of the precursor technology that still mystified many of the older generation. "What exactly am I about to see?" asked Marcus. Kaito smiled. "A revolution in travel. The Council uses hyperspace drives our brute force technology that tears into subspace. What we've developed, based on the precursor artifacts, is something entirely different." At his signal, the gateway began to hum with energy, its inner circumference filling with a swirling silver blue light. "We're not forcing our way through space-time," continued Kaito. "We're folding it or creating a direct connection between 2 points without traversing the distance between." On a large display screen, they could see an identical gate at a research station orbiting the 4th planet in the system, 200 million kilometers away. "Quantum entanglement established," announced Lima. "Pathway stable. Transmitting test object." A small probe floated into the shimmering gateway and instantly appeared at the other gate, with no perceptible travel time. "By the stars," whispered Marcus. "It's instantaneous." "And undetectable by conventional sensors," added Kaito. "No energy wake, no subspace distortion. The Council won't see us coming on or going." The observation room erupted in applause as the test concluded successfully. For the first time since their banishment, humans had developed technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council possessed. Later that day, Marcus convened the Perseus Compact's Executive Council in the Capitol's secure chamber. Representatives of all 17 species that had joined the human exodus sat around a circular table with deliberate contrast to the hierarchical arrangement of the Galactic Council. "The quantum fold technology changes everything," Marcus told them. "Within 5 years, we can have a network connecting all 200 of our settled systems. No more months-long journeys between colonies." Elder Thorn of the Novans, whose crystalline branches had grown more elaborate with age, rustled thoughtfully. "This is indeed revolutionary. But I must ask, how will we use this advantage? Will we remain hidden from the Council, or will we reveal ourselves?" The question hung in the air. 20 years of isolation had allowed the Perseus Compact to flourish beyond anyone's expectations. The ancient precursor technology discovered throughout this region had accelerated their development exponentially, but they had also maintained absolute secrecy, knowing the Council would not rest until humanity was truly extinct. "We've intercepted Council communications, suggesting they believe we perished in the Perseus Nebula," said Admiral Frost, now the white-haired commander of the Compact's defense forces. Their hunter ships found debris we left as a decoy. All the more reason to maintain our secrecy, argued Krell of the Laxi people. We have built something precious here. Why risk it? The debate might have continued, but was interrupted by a priority alert. The chamber's central hologram activated to show a strange vessel approaching the outer sensor perimeter of the New Earth system. Unknown configuration, reported the defense officer, not matching any council design. Magnify, ordered Marcus. The image zoomed in to reveal a ship that seemed to phase in and out of visibility, as if existing partially in another dimension. It's them, whispered Lima Okafor, who had been invited to the council to report on the quantum fold test. The indigenous species I've been detecting energy signatures from. Indigenous? Questioned Krell. This region was supposed to be uninhabited. Not uninhabited, corrected Lima. Just not inhabiting the same phase of reality we do. They exist partially in what we might call subspace. They've been watching us since we arrived. The mysterious vessel made no aggressive moves, instead transmitting a complex mathematical sequence that the Compact's AI systems identified as an attempt at communication. Within hours, first contact protocols had been established with the beings who called themselves the Void Dwellers. Their physical forms are shifting. Luminescent patterns of energy contained within crystalline exoskeletons were unlike anything humans had encountered before. Communication was challenging but not impossible. The Void Dwellers explained that they had coexisted with the precursors eons ago, and had retreated into their partial subspace existence when the entities now controlling the Galactic Council had waged war on the precursor civilization. They destroyed the precursors out of fear, the Void Dweller representative explained through the translation system. Fear of being surpassed. Just as they feared your potential. This revelation stunned the Compact's leadership. The Council's persecution of humanity hadn't been an isolated incident, but part of a pattern stretching back millennia. We have watched you rebuild, continued the Void Dweller. You use the precursor technology with respect and insight. Unlike the usurpers who now call themselves the Council, you seek to build rather than control. We wish to establish formal relations. This unexpected alliance proved transformative. The Void Dwellers, who had been custodians of much of the remaining precursor knowledge, shared technologies that accelerated the Compact's development by centuries. Most significant was their assistance with the Quantum Fold Network, which expanded rapidly to connect all Perseus Compact worlds. 5 years after first contact with the Void Dwellers, the Perseus Compact had grown into a formidable interstellar nation spanning over 200 star systems. The original refugee fleet of 50,000 ships had been replaced by millions of vessels built in massive orbital shipyards. Dyson structures around 12 stars provided virtually unlimited energy. And most importantly, the Quantum Fold Network allowed instantaneous travel throughout compact space. In a secure facility beneath New Earth's capital, Marcus met with Admiral Frost and Captain Tyler Wilson, commander of the Compact's newly formed Exploration Division. The long-range probes have returned from Council space, reported Wilson, displaying the data on the central hologram. The news isn't good. The images showed Council worlds in various states of turmoil, resource shortages, civil unrest, and in some cases outright warfare between member species. Without humanity's innovations in sustainable technology, they've begun to exhaust key resources, explained Wilson. Several rim worlds have already been abandoned. They're also facing a rebellion, added Admiral Frost. Former allies of Earth who chose to remain in Council space have formed a resistance movement. They call themselves the Novan Alliance Remnant. Marcus studied the information carefully. After all this time, the Council is finally fracturing. They sustained their power through technological control and resource monopolization. Without new innovations or innovations they expected to harvest from Eartha, their system is collapsing. There's more, said Wilson grimly. We've detected increased drowsy activity near the Perseus Nebula. Despite believing us dead, they're still searching, and they're getting closer to discovering a way through. The three leaders shared a concerned look. The peaceful isolation that had allowed the Compact to flourish was coming to an end, one way or another. It's time, said Marcus finally. Prepare the Pathfinder Division for recontact operations. We need to establish communication with the Novan Alliance remnant. Are you sure that's wise? Questioned Frost. Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. We can't hide forever, replied Marcus. And from what these reports show, there are billions suffering under Council rule who need the hope we can provide. In the following weeks, a special operations team led by Captain Wilson used a prototype quantum fold projector to slip into Council space undetected. Their mission? To contact resistance leaders and prepare for humanity's return from exile. The gleaming diplomatic vessel emissary slipped through the quantum fold gate, emerging silently in a remote sector of Council space. No alarm sounded, no sensors detected its arrival. Ambassador Dante Washington stood on the bridge, his dark skin contrasting with the silver-white uniform that marked his status in the Perseus Compact's diplomatic corps. Perfect insertion, reported the pilot. We're holding position behind the third moon as planned. Dante nodded. Any sign of the meeting vessel? Approaching now, sir. Running dark as agreed. On the view screen, a small transport ship appeared, its design deliberately nondescript to avoid attracting attention. This far from major trade routes in the shadow of an uninhabited planet's moon, they should be safe from Council patrols, rah. But 50 years of hiding had taught the Perseus Compact the value of caution. Open a secure channel, Dante ordered. Authentication sequence Delta. The screen flickered, revealing a blue-skinned humanoid with bioluminescent patterns flowing across her face, Aer, Representative Lorel of the Aelori people, one of the founding species of the Novan Alliance remnant. Ambassador Washington, she greeted, her voice tense. Your arrival is most timely. The Council's internal conflicts have reached a critical point. For the next hour, Lorel briefed Dante on the deteriorating situation throughout Council space. What had begun as resource disputes had escalated into open warfare between several member species. The Council's ruling faction are still dominated by the same species that had banished humanity, was losing control of its outer territories. The Drowsy Enforcers grow more brutal with each passing cycle, explained Lorel. 3 worlds in the Cygnus sector have been placed under military occupation for merely questioning resource allocations. Dante's expression remained diplomatic, but inside he felt grim satisfaction. The empire that had cast out humanity was collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. How strong is the remnant now? He asked. 32 species have joined our coalition, representing nearly 20% of Council space, but we lack the military strength to challenge the enforcers directly. That may change soon, replied Dante. He transferred a data packet to Lorel's ship. These coordinates will lead your leadership to a secure quantum fold gate. In 3 standard days it will activate, allowing your representatives to visit the Perseus Compact. Lorel's luminescent patterns flashed with surprise. You would bring us to your hidden systems? After all this time? The time for hiding is ending, said Dante simply. After completing the rendezvous, the emissary returned through the quantum fold gate to New Earth, where the Compact's Executive Council awaited Dante's report. 50 years after the exodus from Earth, the Council chamber reflected the prosperity of their new civilization. The curved walls displayed real-time images from across their 200 settled systems, our gleaming cities, orbital habitats, and the massive Dyson structures that powered it all. The remnant is stronger than we anticipated, Dante told the assembled leaders, and the Council weaker. Good news then, rumbled Krell, now the eldest of the original Laxi refugees. His scales faded to a pale silver with age. Marcus Reed, still serving as first consul despite his advanced years, leaned forward. Did you confirm the intelligence about the resource wars? Confirmed and worse, replied Dante. The hegemony faction now controls the Council military entirely. They've begun stripping outer worlds of resources without even the pretense of compensation. The Executive Council digested this information soberly. For decades, they had focused on building their strength in secret, developing technologies the Council had forbidden, and establishing a society that integrated the best aspects of all member species. The Perseus Compact had grown from a collection of desperate refugees into a thriving civilization, one that now surpassed the Galactic Council in many respects. Lima Okafor, who had succeeded her mother as diplomatic chief, spoke next. The Void Dwellers have shared troubling information. Their sensors detect increased Council activity near the Perseus Nebula, They're getting closer to discovering a safe passage. Then we proceed with the next phase, decided Marcus. Activate the forward quantum gates. Begin limited reconnaissance of strategic council systems. The vote was unanimous. After 50 years of preparation, the Perseus Compact would begin its carefully planned emergence from isolation. In the following weeks, stealth vessels equipped with advanced quantum fold projectors established gates in 20 key systems throughout council space, careful to remain undetected. These would serve as beachheads for the operations to come. Meanwhile, the promised delegation from the Novan Alliance remnant arrived on New Earth. Their astonishment at the Compact's achievements evident. We believed hoped that humanity had survived somewhere, said Laurel, as she toured the massive quantum physics laboratory beneath New Earth's capital. But this is beyond our imagining. Dr. Lima Okafor, now in her late 40s and the Compact's leading expert on precursor technology, guided the delegates through the facility where the latest generation of quantum fold gates was being developed. The original technology was precursor, she explained. But we've improved upon their design significantly. The new Phase 3 gates can transport entire fleets simultaneously. And the Council has no equivalent technology? Asked another delegate, a methane-breathing entity named Vorux. They're still using hyperspace drives, confirmed Lima. Inefficient and detectable across light years. Our ships can appear anywhere in their territory with no warning. The implications were clear. For the first time since humanity's banishment, the Perseus Compact had the means to challenge the Council directly and win. As the remnant delegation continued their tour of the Perseus systems, a crisis erupted that would accelerate the Compact's plans dramatically. At a research outpost in the Bellis system, scientists had been studying a particularly intact piece of precursor technology, a communications array of unprecedented power. When activated for the first test, it had transmitted a signal that propagated through subspace in a way no one had anticipated. Before the scientists could shut it down, the signal had reached council space. How bad is it? Demanded Marcus, joining an emergency meeting via hologram. Dr. Javier Rodriguez, the project lead, looked grave. The signal contained identification markers unique to precursor technology. Any council monitoring station would recognize it immediately. Did it reveal our location? Asked Admiral Zhang, who had succeeded Alara Frost as Defense Command Leader. No, but it confirmed that precursor technology is active somewhere. They'll intensify their search of the Perseus sector immediately. Marcus's hologram turned to Admiral Zhang. Victoria, how soon can the defense fleet be ready? The core fleet is prepared now. Full mobilization would take approximately 3 weeks. You have 1 week, said Marcus firmly. The remnant delegation has provided the access codes for the Council's outer defense networks. It's time to implement Operation Reclamation. Throughout the Perseus Compact, the preparations for war intensified. The shipyards that had been building their fleet for decades accelerated production. The quantum fold network that connected their 200 systems hummed with activity as resources were shifted to strategic positions. And in a secure facility on New Earth, the final stage of a plan 50 years in the making was set in motion. That plan was revealed to the full Executive Council 3 days later. At its center was a daring strategy. Rather than engaging in a protracted war, the Compact would use its technological advantage to strike at the heart of the Council itself. A direct assault on the Council nexus? Questioned Elder Thorne, rustling nervously. Even with our advantages, their defenses are formidable. We won't be assaulting it, explained Admiral Zhang. We'll be appearing inside it. She displayed a hologram of an enormous space station, the headquarters of the Galactic Council, where humanity had been judged and banished half a century earlier. The remnant has provided us with the station's exact specifications, continued Zhang. Using that data, we've identified 3 locations where we can safely project quantum fold gates. Small teams will secure these positions, then create a larger gate capable of bringing in our main force. And the Council representatives? Asked Krell. Marcus answered, his voice firm but not vengeful. They will be detained, not harmed. This operation is about liberation, not retribution. As the details were finalized, an urgent transmission arrived from one of their stealth observation posts. The Council's elite enforcer fleet had discovered one of the forward quantum gates. The secret was out. They're attempting to analyze the gate, reported the post commander. Estimate 6 hours before they succeed in tracking the quantum resonance back to our space. Then we move now, decided Marcus. Admiral Zhang, commence Operation Reclamation. Throughout the Perseus Compact, the message spread. The return to Council space had begun. 50 years of preparation, of building and planning and waiting had culminated in this moment. The Banished were returning. The quantum fold gates activated simultaneously across 20 Council systems. Through them came not warships, but liberation vessels carrying representatives of the Perseus Compact and supplies for worlds Scifistories. We are the Perseus Compactor, the civilization built by those you banished and those who... The massive quantum gate pulsed with energy as it stabilized, creating a direct connection between the Council Nexus and Earth's orbit for the first time in 80 years. On the command deck of the Perseus flagship Ascension, Admiral Victoria Zhang stood tall, her uniform bearing the insignia of both the Perseus Compact and the newly formed Galactic Confederation. Gate integrity at 100%, reported her executive officer. Earth orbital space is secure. Victoria nodded, her throat tight with emotion she rarely displayed. As a child born during the Exodus, she had never seen humanity's homeworld except in historical records. Now the blue-green planet filled the view screen, just as beautiful as those old images had promised. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Begin transit sequence. One by one, the ships of the Perseus Armada, the most powerful fleet ever assembled by human hands, passed through the quantum gate into Earth's solar system. It was not an invasion force, but a liberation fleet, coming to reclaim the world that had been abandoned under threat of extinction 8 decades earlier. Initial scans showed what they had expected. In the years following humanity's departure, the Council had established research outposts throughout the solar system, stripping resources from the outer planets while maintaining a quarantine around Earth itself. These outposts offered no resistance when confronted by the overwhelming force of the returning fleet. Most of the alien researchers surrendered immediately, many expressing relief that the oppressive Council regime had been overthrown. As the Ascension moved into orbit around Earth, Victoria received a priority communication from Marcus Reed, now overseeing the transition of power at the Council Nexus. The planet appears remarkably unchanged, she reported to the elderly statesman whose hologram stood before her. Preliminary scans show increased forest coverage, cleaner oceans. The emergency shutdown protocols for our infrastructure worked as designed. Marcus nodded, his eyes bright despite his age. And the Council presence? Minimal. A small research station in what was once London. No weapons or defenses detected. Proceed with the landing then. I only wish I could be there with you. Victoria smiled at the man who had led humanity from exile to triumph. You will be, First Consul. Once the situation is fully secured, we'll establish a permanent gate. You can step from the Council chamber to Earth soil in a single moment. The landing operation proceeded with precision that would have been impossible without the technologies developed during humanity's exile. Quantum fold transporters delivered survey teams to key locations across the planet, bypassing the need for atmospheric entry. Within hours, Victoria had confirmation. Earth was secure and remarkably intact. In what had once been Geneva, Victoria led the first official delegation to make physical contact with humanity's homeworld. The city had been reclaimed by nature, trees growing through crumbled buildings, wildlife roaming freely through what had once been busy streets. As she stepped from the transport onto actual Earth soil, Victoria removed her glove and knelt to touch the ground with her bare hand. Welcome home, Admiral, said Dr. Lima Okafor, now in her 70s but still serving as the Compact's chief scientific advisor. It feels... Victoria searched for words. It feels like we never left. The small Council research outpost surrendered without resistance. Its commander, a Tellarite scientist named Morden, seemed almost relieved as he was brought before Victoria. We always knew you'd return someday, he said, his quill-like hair bristling with nervous energy. The Council tried to erase all evidence that humans had ever existed, but Earth itself refused to forget. What have you been doing here all these years? Asked Lima. Studying how the planet healed itself after your departure. The Council was particularly interested in Earth's remarkably resilient biosphere. Morden hesitated, then added, Not all of us agreed with what was done to your species. Some of us have worked to preserve what we could of your legacy. He led them to a secured vault beneath the research station. Inside, carefully preserved, were thousands of artifacts from human civilization, art, literature, technological devices, even simple personal items like clothing and toys. We recovered these from across the planet, explained Morton. The official directive was to collect examples of human technology for study, but many of us recognized the cultural significance. We couldn't bear to see it destroyed. Victoria was moved by this unexpected preservation of humanity's heritage. It seemed that even among the species who had banished them, there had been those who valued what humans had created. Over the next several days, survey teams cataloged the condition of Earth's major cities and infrastructure. Most urban centers had deteriorated beyond repair, reclaimed by nature after decades of abandonment. But deep underground facilities and HFY designed to endure for centuries without maintenance remained largely intact, preserving crucial historical records and technological databases. A week after the initial landing, Victoria convened a meeting aboard the Ascension with representatives from across the Perseus Compact and the newly formed Confederation. Earth's environment has recovered beyond our most optimistic projections, reported the Ecological Survey Team leader. Without human industry, the planet's natural systems have rebalanced. Air and water quality exceed pre-Exodus levels by significant margins. What about radiation or contaminants from abandoned facilities? Asked Krell, who had insisted on joining the Earth mission despite his advanced age. Remarkably minimal. The shutdown protocols worked effectively, and natural processes have remediated most problem areas. The discussion turned to the future. With the resources and technology of the Perseus Compact now available, humanity could rebuild its presence on Earth in ways that would have been impossible before the exile. We should limit resettlement, advised Lima. Earth has found a new balance. We should respect that. This sparked debate among the representatives. Some argued that Earth should be fully reclaimed and restored to its former status as humanity's primary home. Others suggested it should be preserved as a natural monument, with only limited human presence allowed. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Council Nexus. The holographic form of Marcus Reed appeared, his expression grave. "We've discovered something disturbing in the Council's secure archives," he said without preamble. The banishment of humanity wasn't a response to our supposed technological violations. It was planned decades earlier. Victoria felt a chill. Explain. The ruling species, the ones who controlled the Council for millennia, had a policy of eliminating any civilization that showed signs of developing certain technological capabilities. Not just weapons, but any technology that might eventually challenge their dominance, like what we've achieved with the precursor tech, said Lima. Exactly. They identified Earth as a potential threat nearly a century before our banishment. They methodically restricted our development, manipulated our conflicts, and waited for an excuse to remove us from the galactic stage entirely. Victoria's hands tightened into fists. So they were planning our extinction all along. There's more, continued Marcus. Earth wasn't their first target. We found records of at least 7 other species that were similarly identified, isolated, and eventually eliminated through manufactured conflicts or environmental disasters. The revelation sent shockwaves through the gathering. The Galactic Councilors, the institution that had presented itself as the guardian of peace and stability, had been systematically eliminating potential rivals throughout its history. This information must be shared with the Confederation immediately, said Victoria. The new government cannot begin with such secrets. Marcus agreed. I've already called an emergency session, but there's one more thing you need to know. He hesitated before continuing. The records indicate that the Council ruling species left a failsafe on Earth, or some kind of doomsday device intended to prevent humans from ever reclaiming the planet. Alarm spread through the command center. We've detected nothing like that in our scans, said the security chief. It's well hidden, apparently. According to the records, it's located in what was once known as the Mariana Trench. Victoria immediately ordered specialized deep-sea drones deployed to the location. Within hours, they had located an artificial structure embedded in the ocean floor, a device of obvious alien origin, pulsing with an energy signature that matched Council weapons technology. It's designed to trigger a catastrophic tectonic event, reported the analysis team. Essentially, it would break the planet's crust along major fault lines. Earth would become geologically unstable for millennia. Can we disable it? Asked Victoria. Lima studied the data carefully. Yes, but not with brute force. It has a dead man's switch. If tampered with incorrectly, it will activate immediately. Then we find the right approach, said Victoria firmly. For 3 tense days, the combined scientific teams of the Compact worked to develop a solution. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source on Morden, the Tellarite scientist who had preserved human artifacts.